Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Diplomatic Enclave. I'm your host, Khalid. But as is tradition, we always invite ambassadors, prime ministers, presidents, sometimes foreign ministers as well, in our show in order to ascertain the different facets of the bilateral collaboration and cooperation between their country, ours, their organization and ours. A very important aspect of collaboration, cooperation or diplomacy is the soft power, and a very important aspect of that soft power is culture. Culture is extremely important to any country, including Pakistan, that has a diverse, colorful culture belonging to different regions that make up Pakistan. Many other countries boast of the same. We have the unique privilege to have with us today a group of two musicians. We'll be talking to them one after the other during the course of the show and also request them for a little performance. Let's put it that way. They are here for a jazz festival that is happening, that has happened in Islamabad a few days back, and it was extremely well received with the diplomatic community, with people across different facets of life. And that is what is very important for any country, including for Pakistan, to work on its soft power, to display its soft power to the world. This is what this jazz festival also did. It brought different musicians from different countries to Islamabad. We also have the unique privilege of having with us a very dear guest of ours, the ambassador of Austria to Pakistan, Her Excellency Andrea Wicke. Thank you very much, Excellency, to have come all the way and to have joined this very interesting cultural episode of Diplomatic Enclave.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here also because I have personally a cultural background myself, as I also studied music and I was I was also on stage for a couple of years, so I know exactly how these people work, how much they work, how difficult this job is, really a big challenge. The challenge is also of the life of artists, and I always admire good music and good artists, whatever genre they play.
That is true. And we have the first half, or I shouldn't say the better half or the the less better half, but I think they're quite equal halves. They used to be working together or playing together, but then fate took them to other countries, and this festival brought them together. We have the first half of that band right here with Her Excellency Andrea Wicke. He is none other than Anton Pyvovarov. Anton is a versatile artist who performs both jazz and classical music at a professional level. You grew up in Ukraine, you lived under the age of 19, and you also studied at the Kiev Conservatory. And then, of course, you went to New York, you went to other countries, and then fate brought you to Austria, where you still are. Fate also brought you with the other half of this duo, that is a Bonitz. You performed together, but then one went to Taiwan, one stayed in Austria. And now in Islamabad, here you are, the both of you together again. I am not introducing the other musician, Fark, because he'll be here later in the show. Anton, coming to you, coming from a very rich and diverse musical background, you have classical roots, you have jazz roots, You've studied in Ukraine, you've studied in New York, and now you are in Austria as we speak. How important is a rich background in order to understand music in a better fashion? And how interesting is it also to work with other artists, such as in this case, Bonitz?
I would say the richer your background is, the more freedom you have in your musical expression. The more different styles you have touched yourself with, the better it is and the easier it is for you to understand the language of the other style. And incorporating these different styles in your music is something that's particularly exciting for me, and has always been, because honestly I was just too bored to stick to one language, to just one culture, one style. Hence my also travel-rich life, where I've been in a few places. And it really is about the same as it's about diplomacy and culture. It brings you closer together with things that and it enriches you within. That the musical experience becomes richer and more profound in this sense.
I totally agree with you on that. Excellency, you're here since 2022, if I'm not wrong. And I'd also, before we continue, congratulate you on your country winning the Eurovision contest just a couple of days back. Music is ingrained in you, as you yourself said, you've taught it. On top of that, your country wins an award. On top of that, you also represent one of the countries that presents this jazz festival in Islamabad. How important is music in your life, and how important do you feel is the role that music plays in binding people, societies and nations?
From all the cultural expressions of human beings, from painting, dancing, art, I think music is the most direct, I would say, spiritually connection establishing art we have. I can see that also in Pakistan. I love qawwalis, especially sung with this devotion which is unique in this country. I really love it, and I understand the language. A good musician always loves good musicians. So I think music is a very important factor, and in our country that's ingrained in society. We have music training in normal schools. Every pupil is taught music. Then if he's not so talented, he drops it, but if he's talented, he can be discovered. And so we have this rich potential of both practitioners, private or public, and also listeners, and that's really an essential part of our way of living, I would say. And culture in general, I would say, is constituting us as human beings, differing us from animals. I mean, the joy of aesthetics, of beauty and of creation is something that makes us different and gives us this special touch. So for me, this is a very important thing, and I'm always very happy if we can support artists to participate, especially in this international, very enriching contests, and I congratulate the organizers of this festival to do that, because it brings so many people together.
Of course, Lahore Jazz Club, FACE, Pakistan, and collaborate to do this, and have been doing this for quite some time. But I'd also like to understand, Austria, that is a place, a birthplace for so many world-renowned composers. I mean, Haydn, I don't know whether I'm pronouncing it well, Liszt, Schubert, you've got Strauss, Senior Strauss Jr., and so many others. I'm really sorry, my
I know.
my accent isn't that good. But do classical and other forms of music still hold importance to Austria? Are they still studied by the new generation?
Yes, yes, of course. They learn it in school. There are music schools in every small town and even bigger villages. You have a music school where children can learn instruments, whatever. There are these brass ensembles in the countryside where they play the brass instruments from very early age. And classics is very much ingrained. You know, JJ, you quoted him, who won the Eurovision Song Contest a couple of days ago. He's a classically trained countertenor, but he, like Anton said, very well put it, he is shifting between the styles. So if you have one style, it's easy for you to shift to another style, and he created his own music, and with this music, together with his technique he acquired, he won this contest. So he's actually a very good example of Austria combining the classical with the modern styles and embracing all of the styles.
That's a very interesting question. In fact, I tend to perceive all the musical happening as a spontaneous act. The real essence of creation of music is in improvisation, something that comes out of this spark and brings the music happening. And my personal belief is, even when you play the composed piece which has a strictly written notes, you should still pertain that sense of spontaneity that makes you an improviser, because that's the only way how you can keep the performance and the inspiration there alive, really. And so in this sense, you just move from more stable part to a more unknown area, and then go back to your comfort zone a little bit. But this is just, you know, like a dynamic process. It goes from one to another naturally if you have experience in both. And that's what I have a lot of fun with, also with Falk, when we collectively improvise together. This is this exchange between ideas, and then going from the fixed parts to the free parts is what makes it really beautiful.
It's like myself as an anchor when I ask the questions, and I improvise as well as per the answers that are being given to me by the guests. And I change my tone. Sometimes I don't ask the question that is next in line, and I go to another totally different question, because that is how I have to improvise in order to make it better. I think you do the same to make your music better. You improvise in order to make that better. You studied in both Kiev and in New York, Anton. You've performed with legends like Chico Hamilton. How do these early experiences continue to shape your voice as a saxophonist, as a composer in 2025?
Well, I think I was rather young when I started my music, and this core experience that you get in your teens and your 20s is what shapes you to the rest of the life. It's really like a core of your personality, of your musical expression, that puts a foundation to what you really are. And I feel really blessed to having had all this experience I had the chance to live through, which were sometimes challenging and took a lot of work, but at the end, every little brick of it composed the whole musical experience and collaboration that I'm enjoying now with Falk also. It all comes from this starting point, how it all began. And you can say that that's the start of the journey was.
All right. How it all began, Andrea, Wicke. The name of Austria, Österreich, is one of the most ancient, that is as early as the year 996. You know, he was talking of ancient. Austria is ancient, but Austria is refined. Austria is rich in culture, rich in traditions, and rich in many other facets. But here we are concentrating on the culture. How much does your country still continue to value culture in this day and age?
It's in our DNA. It's in our DNA. I mean, you can see that everywhere when you go to Austria. Welcome to Austria. I mean, there's culture everywhere, from the countryside to the big cities. In the big cities, you have the architecture. Austria was for quite a while, it was an empire, not with colonies though, but you know, in the heart of Europe, basically, with many different languages and areas. And Vienna was a melting pot, and you can see from all these regions, you can see the architecture, and it's giving you this spirit. If you go to Vienna, you have this spirit. That's why so many international students, also like Anton, he came to Austria as a musician. It's very attractive, has a gravity because of its aesthetics and way of life and approach to art and music in general.
All right. So I'll ask you the same question. What is so attractive about Austria that you continue to stay there?
Great food. Seriously, Austria has this aspect of comfort, this bracing comfort qualities that is very much needed for artists, because we are many times like this, you know, being blown around by the wind all over the world, very much in our own world of art. And these qualities of Austrian culture and Austrian mentality is something that felt really grounding me in a very positive way. And combined with this rich tradition of classical music and compositional school, because I studied composition in Austria, it's really what was a true completion for me after New York experience, after all this in a way grounded me and matured me as an artist.
You know, you talk of composition. That's interesting that you say that. Like, for example, whenever you write something or you want to work on any project, it's not always easy to start it at a certain time of the day. You're not always in the right mood or always the right spirit or the right passion to do that. What inspires you to start working on music?
Through my practice, it slowly moved for me towards the point where I'm not trying to struggle it out anymore. I'm not trying to work my compositions out. I just do it whenever the inspiration comes.
Could be late in the night, early in the morning, in the afternoon, you're eating a good piece of Austrian food, and all of a sudden you say, oh, this inspires me for this music.
Well, I think the goal for me was really to bring myself to the point where these moments where I can express music through inspiration would come more frequently, and I wouldn't have to force them to come.
Okay.
Like, I don't have to wait for it, because I'm lucky enough to be inspired most of the time.
That's great, because everybody is not inspired all the time. I can talk from personal experience. There are times when you are least inspired of all, and you need that little push. And I think sometimes in a collaboration, this is what it happens. The other person pushes you when you are down, and you push the other person when he is down. And that is how you collaborate, and you strengthen each other to make a musical composition or a piece that excels in all forms.
And that's the beauty of the collaboration, of this collective, because in a collective you always have a bit of extra power that brings something interesting, something unique in you, and another level of inspiration, I would say, this collective musicianship.
I'm going to deviate a little bit from music. He talked about food, and that makes me hungry. The thing is that I love good food. Why doesn't Austria have a food festival sometime in the future? I'd love to taste some of the traditional Austrian food.
I'm very sorry that there is a food festival in Islamabad every year, and only this year we're not participating because all our staff is on holiday, and our time schedules, because of the recent confrontation between India and Pakistan, is topsy-turvy, so we didn't manage. We are a very small embassy. We planned to do so, but now we cannot manage. But usually we are participating, and yes, food is nice, and what we share with Pakistan is actually the enjoyment of food. We really like, and we like to cook and prepare in the family and do things well. That's the same. The spices differ considerably, but I think I found two things that are similar. That is the sweets. We both like sweets, and the fried food, which makes the schnitzel very attractive. So I usually make the chicken schnitzel at my national days and reception. In Pakistan, you're usually only around the schnitzel. After half an hour, they're all gone, because they also like fried food, like the schnitzel is. So I found a few things in common. For us, it's the dal. When we were children, we had a lot of dal, different kind of dal. And when I came here, I had the experience of my life, so many different kinds of dal.
Yes.
I'd never seen in my life. And the taste and the texture are different. That was wonderful for me as a revelation, food revelation.
Another revelation that is to the world, as has been coming to the world and also to Pakistan, is your contribution from the arts and architectural fields. Your country is renowned for that. How much do you still pursue the architecture part, the art part? The music part we know you still do, you've just answered some of that. What about the art part? Because the art encompasses so much more than music.
Yes. Of course, yeah, architecture is very interesting. Of course, we have this old architecture, but there are extremely interesting pieces that might be interesting for your people, how we preserve the old architecture with very refined techniques and technology, and also combine it with modern architecture. The Austrian Parliament is a very good example. It has an old architecture like a Greek temple, but they modernized it recently. If you go in, it's amazing, the combination between the old and the new, and the theme was transparency of government. So it's all kind of transparent when you go through. That's really marvelous. It can be visited by any visitor. They just have to register. So if anybody's interested in this combination between old and new, so that's one thing. The other thing I find very interesting is the technology of energy saving houses. We have started this already 20 years back, and we created passive houses that preserve with good insulation, that preserve a lot of heat or coolness in the summer inside. So you need minimum energy to make these houses run. So that's a very good trend, and at the same time look aesthetic. So that's a very good trend.
That is great. Last question to you, Anton, before we move to your other half. I wouldn't say, I mean, musically other half, Anton, live performances, for me, when I do a live show, it's a whole different feeling altogether. You know you are in control. It's that very second when you are talking, that very time when you are on air, or when you are talking to people, or when I, also give seminars, is the fact that you have that control over the people that are listening to you, whether it be through a TV screen or whether it be live. And that control has positive and negative effects. You could control it to such an extent that the audience is mesmerized. At the end of the day, they want to know or listen to more. Or at the other hand, you fail to properly understand your public or the audience, and that contact is lost. How important is that contact? How do you understand during a live performance like you've done in the Jazz Festival here in Islamabad or other places in the world? How important is that contact with the people that are listening to you, and how do you work on that contact during a live performance?
I have to say my take on that, it's a very interesting topic, by the way. My take on it is a bit different. There is this famous pianist, Keith Jarrett, who is a world-known jazz piano player, who had an extreme importance on interacting with audience. And what he came to, the point he came to, is that any kind of interaction with any kind of public performance involves two sides, performer and the audience. So that literally means that the music is co-created by the audience. And with that approach, I always try to really blend my attention into the public, so to become one with it, so to say. Not to control it, I wouldn't be able to, honestly. Okay. But to really react to this collective mood of the audience is what brings the most joy in it, and it profoundly affects the quality of the music itself. Whether for good or for bad, it just happens. It's a scientific and philosophical approach to it, in a sense that the audience is creating the music with you while you're playing it.
Oh, that's a very wonderful quote. The audience is creating music with you as you perform live. I think I'll take that with me during the entirety of the show. We have to come with our second musical guest after this short break. Stay with us. Welcome back, and welcome to this very interesting, creative, cultural, musical episode of my show, Diplomatic Enclave. I was talking to Anton before the break, and we discussed in many a detail of what his interpretation of his compositions, of his music is concerned. He, in this Islamabad Jazz Festival, came with another musical, I wouldn't say legend, but a personality, let's put it that way. Who is more fun-loving in the couple of minutes that I've found him, very joyful, very full of life. And I think it complements a lot to the ambiance when you do a live performance, and also to any combination when you bring more passion, more joy, more positivity to life. I think I have always been an eternal optimist, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce this other optimist that I found during the course of the show. And he is my guest in this part. Our ambassador to Austria, Excellency Andrea Wicke, continues to join us, but also does Falk Bonitz. Falk Bonitz, thank you very much to have joined us. Let me introduce Falk before we go to him. Falk is a pianist, is a composer from Germany. Yes, from Germany, not from Austria. With a strong interest in jazz and Latin music, he came to jazz after a 10-year education in classical music. His passion for rhythm, this is what I like, because rhythm is something that makes the world turn around. Rhythm is part of your life. Rhythm is part of everything you do, from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep. And particularly Latin music took over, and he started expression in the Falk Bonitz trio. Here he is with his dear friend Anton Pyvovarov, and of course both are performing as a duo, but he's also part of a trio. He has been performing with his trio as well as with internationally acclaimed artists in jazz music festivals and different kinds of concerts as well. He's appeared in so many different magazines in Germany, Italy, Austria, Poland, Slovakia, Belgium, Turkey, Japan, Taiwan. That is why he's so comfortable, you know, talking to me and has this broad smile that kind of brightens up the day for so many of us. And that is a positive aspect that I will discuss during the course of the show. Falk, thank you very much to have joined us, and what a pleasure to have met you. You know, in my thousands of shows that I do, one thing that I learn is to gauge my guests very quickly. And that is how I talk to them. With you, you make me comfortably very easily you know, you take me to this comfort level, this level of peace where I feel that I can easily extract whatever I want. And I think that is very important for any artist, diplomat, or musician. If you give that aura of comfort, of peace, the other person feels comfortable confiding in you, listening to you, and interacting with you. How important is that as far as the music is concerned?
It's very important. This I can say from the beginning. Just I was actually very pleased the way like Anton spoke about that issue, because he saw it really from this like trying to analyze it, and I think he nailed it pretty much. I would add just one thing, one aspect. You depend as an artist on exactly that energy you just described. You really depend on you. If you start to play, you need an audience that really engages, that really listens, that is into. I mean, of course, you have to do your part as well to get the people there, but without that, it's almost not possible to reach this level of freedom. It's strange. I think it has to do. Humans are kind of are naturally empathetic. That means
not all humans.
Not all humans, but I would say naturally. Maybe they grow in a certain way for whatever reasons that are not anymore. I think it's like this. And I heard from an audience member once that once they see the joy on stage, they can immediately enjoy the music. It doesn't even matter what kind of music.
All right. Now coming to Pakistan, Falk, I'm sidelining you for a little bit, Excellency, but I will come back to you. Falk, you're in Pakistan. This is your first trip. You must have had many questions while coming to Pakistan. The Excellency told me you didn't, but I'd like to understand, coming to a different country, irrespective of which part of the world it is, do you have certain preconceived notions? And if so, what is your take whenever you go to any country that you have never visited before, to play or to visit as a tourist?
To answer your first question, I'm a little bit of a history nerd. That means when I go to a country, I always like check a little bit what I know about the country in the history. And in Pakistan, for example, for me was that amazing thing I know all my life, like Alexander the Greek went to the Indus River and met the Indian counts at the time. And so I was just, when I heard I might go to Pakistan, then I was just, wow, I go to the Indus River, like one of the oldest civilizations in the world besides Egypt.
You've got Mohenjo-daro and Taxila as well,
yeah,
that are also reminiscent of the old civilizations.
Yeah. So that was for me is very fascinating thing already. So when I landed in Karachi, I was completely aware of this, where I am, which context I am, and that, yeah, for me is very, very important, this context.
All right. Tourism, Excellency Andrea Wicke, is very important to Austria as well. What are the basic aspects of tourism that any country needs to work on? And Pakistan being such a rich country as far as the different places are concerned, we were just talking of Mohenjo-daro and Taxila, among others, he was talking of the Indus River. How can Pakistan learn from the Austrian experience as far as tourism is concerned?
From the beauty and the richness, Pakistan doesn't stand back a millimeter to Austria. It's absolutely an equal footing. What I would, and I enjoy that a lot, I have to tell you, the diversity and richness of the country is enormous. What I would say, maybe 3 points: targeted branding and structuring and targeted audiences, but that's underway already a little bit. Second, infrastructure, because you have to get to the places. And the third thing is, what came to my mind is the great hospitality that struck me from the first day in this country, this warm hospitality of people, to translate it into a modern service culture, which the modern tourist expects. I think that would be the 3 points that could make it fly.
All right, all right. That's an interesting aspect, and I think we need to strengthen this aspect of ours as well in order to bring in more people. I think that's a very important aspect of the economy as well. Speaking of economy, is tourism the only sector that you concentrate on in Austria?
Yes, yes. We have a lot of tourism, and we have both the city and cultural tourism, which includes the capital, of course, but also the provincial capitals, as well as the nature and activity tourism. So we are covering quite a lot, and also swimming, because we have a lot of lakes. So we don't have the sea like Pakistan, but we have the lakes, so we have all kinds of different aspects of tourism. And our tourism schools, we always have also Pakistani students in our tourism school.
Oh, wonderful. Yes. Thank you for letting
us know. Of
course,
we try to foster this, also to get some support, financial support for that. And I think every year at least one person is.
Oh, great. You're a highly industrialized economy. Tourism is part of your economy as well. And it's a well-developed social market economy. How has that social market economy helped develop, strengthen your country?
In a combination of inventiveness and research and modern technologies, at the same time with a developed welfare state that puts a strong emphasis on education, which is then the next generation workforce, inventive workforce, and so on. I think this combination has brought us a lot of benefit over a long time. However, everything that is good, that is established, needs rethinking from time to time, because all of our countries, we are living in an international environment, and it's changing at the ever higher pace. So we have to adapt our system structures, and we have to adapt now to artificial intelligence, how to use it in education, what to do with it, and all these things that come along with modernization and into our industries, how to adapt, where it's useful, where it's not useful. To always keep pace with the modern developments, that's a challenge, but I think everybody faces that, and every country faces it.
I think it's like anything, any work that you do, you only get better with time because you understand the different modalities of it. That is why we have such an excellent diplomat sitting right next to you, who with time has nurtured her capabilities as a diplomat, and with her musical sensibilities adds to that flavor when she talks to anybody. And that is that you add all the different facets of your personality. You've added your theater, your musical sensibilities, and when you talk to an audience in a concert, or when you talk to me in a program, that is what you bring forward. I think that's very important in any conversation, and in understanding each other. How important is music in understanding different cultures? How does it bind different societies, cultures together?
That's a very strong question. I can say the point is, one experience I have made, like I have lived in a couple of countries and have usually very close to the how do you say, to the natives.
Yes, of course, I know.
It's always better.
Yes.
And what I noticed is that the difference between human beings is much bigger than the difference between cultures. That means that if you go into another culture, you always find some people you resonate with, musically, humanly, or not. And that's the thing. There are people, it does not depend on the culture. The difference in the culture, there are some differences, yes, but actually the differences between the people is what really counts. So you vibe with the people or you don't. So that is what I have experienced. So naturally, when I'm in any foreign country, then I find people with who I vibe, and then I have no problem talking about any things, any musical things, any.
And I think that is what you do while you perform at a concert as well. You vibe with the people who are listening to you. And that is why you kind of feed off each other's energies. And that is how you make great music, isn't that?
Sometimes it's that there is, I would even call it cultural differences so much. I would call it different conditionings. And there are sometimes like an audience can also have a different conditionings. For example, I have been in Asian countries now, in East Asian countries, many times, different ones. And they're naturally very shy. They sometimes do not even dare to clap to that point. And that is of course a polite aspect, but it makes it sometimes hard for the musicians to evolve to this energy we were talking about earlier. And but I was talking to some member of the audience, and they were telling me they were screaming inside, and I was just telling them, please let it out next time. Please let it, because we need it for our performance. We really dearly need it, because that is actually what gives us the inspiration and the it makes us start to fly.
All right. Last question before we move towards a musical part of the show, ladies and gentlemen. I'm giving you a hint. Falk, your music is being described as a fusion of romantic era sensibilities, and you seem to me like a very romantic person as well, with progressive Latin jazz. When you arrive at such an unconventional blend of music, what challenges or freedoms come alongside or tag alongside these unconventional blends? Because you create sometimes music that defies traditional genre boundaries. Explain us how you get to that.
It's very easy, because these boundaries do not exist. It's that simple, actually. It's kind of made up. Okay. I would call, okay, maybe might be a bit controversial, but that is my take on it. I feel it's quite made up. Like music has certain qualities you would just find in any kind of music. And you would find some, talking about Latin jazz, you would find some very interesting rhythmic elements in Bach's music. Yes. It's sometimes you just need to give it a little bit of a tweak, and then it sounds like Latin. And I was talking to musicians from Martinique in the Caribbean, and they grew up with this very African-oriented music. And they say what the people like the most on all these islands, all these Caribbean islands, is a nice Caribbean groove with some nice Baroque, like Bach's music, harmonies. That's what makes them the most happy. So this is why I wrote this kind of music. I thought that sounds very, totally makes sense.
So your intention is to make people happy and to bind them. And I think that is also what the role of a diplomat is, to bind people from different countries, and all the countries that you go to, you try your level best to kind of look at avenues that could forge better collaboration or cooperation between the countries. And Excellency Andrea, Wicke, this is my last question to you. We are talking mostly culture in this episode. What measures, in your point of view, could be taken to better understand each other's cultures, traditions, arts and crafts? Every country, every society is different. But how do you arrive at a better understanding of each other through culture?
If you make music together with other people, is telling a big part of the story, because you have to walk in each other's moccasins. You have to understand why the other does that. Does it fit or not? How do I adapt to that? Like in a relationship, the expression walk in each other's moccasins is most important. If we don't do that, we will not be able to really understand, and we will be sticking to words and stuck in words, but we don't understand the meaning. We have to work in the shoes of the other people, or walk in them. As an actor, what I was also beside a musician, you automatically do that, because you have to interpret a character. So I can see this in diplomacy. Sometimes people talk even the same language, but they talk like this. They don't walk in each other's moccasins, they just take the words and they don't get to the meaning behind it, and then the understanding is not reached. And I think we have big challenges in the whole world at the moment, really huge challenges. I mean, life-threatening for the whole planet, as Pakistan has experienced itself. So if we don't do that, walk in each other's moccasins, understand each other honestly and with some empathy, music, empathy, to find common solutions. Of course, a common solution we know that from the European Union a compromise is always a compromise. But a compromise is a good thing. We know that in Europe, to find these solutions, because otherwise it will be increasingly difficult for countries to go it alone. Talking about Austria and its system, we are living in a bigger unit of the European Union and a bigger unit of the world. So nobody can go it alone.
Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of this part of the show. We will be back with a little surprise with our musical guests. But Excellency Andrea, Wicke, thank you very much to have come. Thank you very much to make us delve into the importance of culture and how important it is for Austria. And of course, with the birthplace of so many composers, I can just think and of being in that little cradle of musical heaven or cultural heaven. I hope one day I'll be able to go there and witness some of the compositions or the compositions by those composers in your theaters soon. But I think what you said is extremely important as far as culture and walking each other's shoes is concerned. I hope during the rest of your tenure, I'm sure we'll get a lot of opportunities to talk again. We'll be able to understand each other and walk in each other's shoes so that we can, take a lot of important aspects to each other's countries and make, this world, or try to make this world a better place to live in. Thank you very much, Excellency, to have joined us.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back after a short break. Welcome back, and as I said, there'll be a little surprise at the end of the show. We have a little performance by this duo of Anton Pyvovarov and Falk Bonitz. Before I leave you guys with this small performance which is exclusive for our audience, I'd like to understand, basically, one of you is based in Taiwan, the other one is in Vienna. Your international residencies shape more or less, I mean, even whenever one is in another country, it kind of shapes his personality and his musical adaptations as well in the long term. How have the countries that you live in shaped both of your artistic approaches, have broadened your understanding of jazz as well as a global language, and how, when you of course bring it to a country like Pakistan that has an understanding of jazz but not as much as other countries is, how important is that broadening of your understanding of music to make it more complementary for an audience in Pakistan? I'll begin with you, Falk.
There are two elements of that. Like, one is of course the original music in these respective countries, and the other one is, of course, we should not forget jazz as an art form is coming from America. So most of the countries, including like East Asian countries and even Austria, will be strongly influenced by that main influence. And then it mingles a little bit with the local things. So of course in Asia you will have some elements of this music, and in Europe you definitely have some romanticistic elements coming into the jazz. But I think still the strongest influence is the jazz itself as an American music.
What about you, Anton?
Well, there is a very practical aspect of it. If we are farther apart, then we have less time to collaborate, and it costs more money to get together. But the higher the quality and the more joy of it when we actually make it together.
All right, it's true. The more joy is it when you do music together. I leave you to this musical collaboration, Anton, and thank you very much, Falk, to have joined us and to have given us an opportunity to enter your world of music. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of today's Diplomatic Enclave. We'll end with this performance by this duo. I leave you to it. Omar, Khalid bids you farewell. Have a great musical evening and a musical week ahead. Allah Hafiz.